So today's project, I'm going to make a second of the booties for men. I wanted to try out one first to make sure I could make it well enough to be put on for instructions. And I'll put a link to where I found the project on Pinterest. This will make a men's size large to extra large. If you want smaller, then you need to do less stitches. So I've got one booty done. This is the yarn I'm using. I'm using needles that are 5.5 millimeters. You'll need scissors, and the other thing you're going to need is some kind of darning needle to sew off the booties. So I'm going to start by showing you how to cast on and how to start knitting. This is a really simple project because it only uses the garter stitch, so you're doing the same stitch throughout. And it'll show you some on casting off and casting on, and so it's a nice little project to start off knitting. And you don't need a lot of stuff. Okay, so to cast on, first you start making one loop, and then you pull yarn through the loop, and that's your first stitch. Now, a lot of people do a whole bunch of different fancy ways to cast on. Mine's very simple. You just knit cast on. So your first stitch around the knitting needle and through, and then over. In through, around the knitting needle, pull back out and through. Put the needle through, put the yarn around, pull through. And for the particular sock I'm doing, you'll need 20 of those. So I will come back as soon as I get to the next stage. Okay, sorry, I think I said 20 stitches a while ago and I should have said 40. So I've got all 40 stitches on here, and then it's just a matter of plain knitting like that. Put the needle through, put the yarn around, pull it through, put the yarn through, put the yarn around, pull the yarn through, put the needle in, put the yarn around, pull the yarn through. And you just do that for the next about 20 rows, 26 I think is what I had. And I'll show you how to count those rows when we're done, or when I'm done to the next part. The other thing you have to remember is that if you want a smaller sock, you'll also have to have smaller rows. You can do the same sock using stockinette stitch or using this just garter stitch. So you do this for another 26 rows, and when you're done you have to cast off some, and I'll come back when I'm going to show you how to cast off. So for now I'm just knitting every row. So you just turn it around and start the next row. Put the needle through, put the yarn around, pull it through. And each one of those is called a stitch. Okay, so I've done my 26 rows, and here is how you count them. These little funny parts, each one counts as 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 times 2 is 26, which is the 26 rows you need. So at this point, I've got to get rid of 20 stitches. So the way you do this is you knit 2 together, and then you have 1 on this one, you move it back, you knit 2 together, you have 1 on this needle, move it back, and you keep doing this over and over until you only have your 20 stitches left. And that's how you get down to the 20 stitches. So then once I get down to 20 stitches, I will come back and show you a little bit more of what we do to make these slippers. So I've taken off the 20 stitches. It's called casting off. Now I have 20 stitches, so I just work it the same as the other stitches, putting the needle through, twisting around, pulling it through, and I do that again for 10 more rows, and I'll come back and show you how to cast back on the stitches at the end. So this sock itself, you get to practice casting on, casting off, casting on, and just plain garter stitch. Okay, so I've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows, and that makes the 20 rows because each one of these is 2. And so now we get to add some more stitches. I got to add back the 20. Make sure when you do that you're in the blank spot, not at the end here, or you're going to have a real mess. But because you need it to go this way, you need to be at the blank spot, which I am. So to add stitches, you just do like you did at the beginning to get your 40 stitches, and you just do that until you have a total of 40 stitches. So you put the yarn around the needle, pull it through, put the needle through, put the yarn around the needle, pull it through, and you just do that until you have the 40 stitches, and then it's just back to plain knitting back and forth till you get to the end. And I'll bring it back up at the end so you can see the end product and how to put it together. Okay, so I got all my rows done, and I have to cast off. So to do that, you start off by knitting the 2 first ones together and pulling through, and that leaves you with 1 on this needle. You move that back over and you put through the 2 stitches on the needle that are nearest. You pull through, and then you put this stitch back on the first needle, and then you just keep doing that until you get to the end. And when I get to the end of that, I'll show you how to finish it off. So eventually you get to the point where you have 1 stitch on the needle. At that point you cut off a tail, and you take the 1 stitch off the needle, you pull your tail through and pull it tight, and there you have a finished part of the sock. The next step is to put together the sock, or the slipper, sorry, to put together the slipper, and I have to go for a second and get my darning needle with a really thick hole or a big hole here so it'll fit the yarn, and I'll get the yarn on and we can start to put together the slipper. Okay, so you want to put a few knots at the end just to make sure it's good and solid, and then what you want to do is you want to go in and out of this area, because this is going to be your toe. So you want to make sure you have a fairly good standard in and out here. And of course you might have to do this several times, making sure to pull all the yarn through from your needle. And just keep doing that till you get to the end of the toe. And so when you get to the end of that, you're going to pull all the toe together and tie off the bottom, but make sure it's as tight as you can get it before you do that. Then tie it off, and then take a few stitches to finish off the toe so that it's not got a hole through it. And don't worry about loose ends. At the end you just take them and weave them in the rest of the slipper so they shouldn't be showing. Okay, and from there, this is your bottom of your slipper. So you do the same sort of thing all the way through, and of course this is your heel. So you sew all the way up to here, and when you're finished that, then you actually have a slipper. And this is the opening. And if you want to put something fancy, like some beads, or if you want to lace some ribbon or something through so it can tie, you can make it fancy as you want or as plain as you want. So here I'm just putting together the bottom of the sole, and you just continue on like that, and I'll show you when I've gotten to the end. Okay, so here's the finished one. These ends you can weave some in through the knitting using either your tapestry needle, or if you have crochet hooks you can use that as well. Once these are woven in, you don't have to weave the whole thing in, just a little bit so it looks more professional. Then you turn the whole thing inside out, and there is your finished slipper. And there are the two finished slippers. Thanks for watching our video. Please remember to like, subscribe, and give us a big thumbs up and share. Thank you.